It's Wednesday, October the 11th. Lake level is right at 916 and a quarter. I haven't done a fishing report for a couple weeks. I was at Grand Lake fishing last week, fishing a tournament. But unfortunately, the fishing hasn't changed very much here on Table Rock. I think it's still brutally tough. Actually, the last couple days we've gone over to Bull Shoals, and fish are biting really good over Bull Shoals. We're catching a lot of fish over there. But as far as Table Rock, I mean, they had a big tournament yesterday, I think 180 boats. I think it took 14 pounds to win, and those guys had like almost a 7-pounder. But I think it took just over 10 pounds to get in the top 10. So it's still really tough. The best way, I mean, there's not a solid pattern. The only way that I'm catching fish, I'm having to junk fish. I'm having to fish a little bit of everything. I can catch some fish on some shallow docks, and I'm catching them on a jig, some on a shaky head. I catch some fish on some deep docks. Some of those are on a white spoon or a football jig. But I have to hit a lot of docks in order to catch any keepers. And I've been all the way up in the rivers as far as you can go. There's a lot of shad and stuff up there, and you can catch a lot of little guys up there. Some days on a crankbait, some days flipping. But the keepers are few and far between. It's really a struggle to catch the keepers. It seems like it's been that way for a couple weeks. A couple of the baits that have been the most consistent for me around the docks, I'm throwing a jig. It's a 3/8 ounce jig, and throwing a lot of different colors. Green pumpkin purple. This is a green pumpkin with a little blue in it. I'm using either a twin tail craw, a speed craw, or a striking baby rage craw. And once in a while, if I find the fish is suspended on the docks, then I'm throwing like a striking rage chunk or like a pocket craw, something that's got a lot of leg action. If the fish are on the bottom, I'm not wanting as much action on the trailer on my bait, so I'm going more with like a zoom speed craw. And like I say, some of these fish will be as shallow as 2 feet. Some of them will be out to 15 foot on the shallower docks. Now some of the deeper docks, I'm throwing a 5/8 ounce and 3/4 ounce football jig in the stalls, letting it go to bottom. But like I say, it's just the bites are few and far between. Probably one of the most consistent deals I can get bid on is, and you can fish this a lot of different ways. I have got this Texas rig. It's a 3/16 ounce weight, and it's a 6-inch zoom trick worm. This particular one is a watermelon red. I've got a little bit of chartreuse on the tail. And I'm throwing this and another bait here I'll show you in just a minute, but I'm fishing a lot of rock transitions in the creeks. You can throw it around docks as well, but the jig seems to work better around the docks. It's easier to get it into some of the places. But I'm looking for, channel swings in the creeks, and pretty much starting at the mouths of the creeks and working my way back in. And I'm finding, my bites are coming from the mouth of the creek to about halfway back. Any place a channel swings in, you've got bigger rock where it goes to small rock. Now, I'm not having to fish it very deep. It doesn't really matter whether I'm way up in the river arms or on the main lake. I'm fishing it from the bank out to about 8 to 10 feet deep. Now, another bait you can throw there, I've got one rigged up here on this is a pig sticker, pig rig, kind of like a biffle hardhead, or some people call it a swing head. But I've got a Strike King structure bug, and a little beaver will work as well. You can either fish it on a swing head, or you can just take a shaky head and screw the bait right onto that. And I've also been fishing this on a heavier head out there deeper. We've been catching a few fish out there from 25, some as deep as 35 feet. Either dragging a football jig or this beaver type bait on a 5/8 or a 3/4 ounce head. Now if I'm fishing this up shallow, I'm usually using about a 3/8 ounce head. But a lot of the conservation brush piles is what I've been catching some fish off of. The drop shot bite. You can find a lot of fish. Some days they're hard to get to bite, and it seems like when I do get them to bite, there's a lot of non-keepers, a lot of 13, 14-inch fish. I've had a hard time finding, the quality drop shot fish, and some of those I'm finding anywhere from 25 to 35 feet deep, some on the bottom, and some are out there suspended over the deeper trees, and even some out over the deeper docks. But like I say, it's hard to catch keepers out of them. You catch a lot of shorts. As far as the topwater bite, you might get on a school of fish that'll come up in the middle of nowhere, and there'll be some good fish in there with them, and you might be able to catch a few of them that day. But then you try to go back to that same area the next day, the bait's gone, and the fish are gone with it. So a lot of times when the topwater bite starts, we can go to, secondary points, main lake points, or bluff ends that are consistently, where it's got deep timber, where the fish are just resting in that timber, and when the conditions are right, they come up and feed. That doesn't seem to be the case. The shad is still pretty much all over the place, and the fish seem to be roaming with them. Water temperature, got real cold last night, and that's going to help, but it's going to take several cold nights. It looks like, the lake temperature is about 72 degrees, but it looks like the air temperature is coming back up again this weekend. We're going to be back up in the 80s. So I think it's still going to be tough, for several more weeks till we get a cool down. And, tough meaning that as far as any kind of consistency and quality, you can still catch a lot of fish, especially at Bull Shoals. I mean, in there you can kind of do a little bit of everything. We fished the upper end of Bull Shoals today, from like Tucker Hollow to K-Dock, and I mean, you can catch fish on a spinnerbait, you can catch them on a crankbait, catch them on a jig and a shaky head up there, and a lot of whopper plopper fish. I can't hardly catch a lot of any type of fish on Table Rock with any kind of consistency like we had at Bull Shoals. But Grand Lake last week was tough as nails too, and a lot of it's just the weather just hasn't got cool enough. The fish are trying to make a transition, but we need it to cool down. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.